Hello, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We had a fuss, but we had a backup cam, which we just installed. So you're actually getting a little higher quality today, which is a good thing, ultimately. 1080p instead of 720. My name is Rob Anderson, and I'm running for Congress in Louisiana's 3rd Congressional District. And sitting with me here today is going to be Dave Longley, who's doing something. He's doing something. My wife and I, we ordered some dinner last night, and we both got sick, and it's been a horrible time period since then. So we got a series of questions, specifically from Luke from Lafayette. Just letting him know. I think he's been sending him to the wrong email or something. But at any rate, we haven't answered his questions as of yet. So tonight, we're answering your questions, Luke from Lafayette.
Oh, we're live?
Yeah, we're live. It's up and running. Well, at least I'm showing it. You verifying it on YouTube?
I'm getting it.
Yeah, we're 1 minute in. Okay, so Dave's going to slide in here with me. Very informal today. I already told him I'm sick.
Hey guys.
Say, look, nice 1080p.
Oh, fancy.
Fancy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, organized that, right?
Yeah, turn off feedback. Okay, so we are getting out live. Ash has just verified it, and it scared the demons that live in Dave's brand new couch. But, every now and then you have to do an exorcism, and that was it.
You call the Ghostbusters, they just don't deliver. I mean,
What are you
gonna do?
They're Manhattan based, so what are you?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so Luke from Lafayette, as I pointed out in the intro.
Okay, so you already kind of got the.
Yeah, I addressed that. We're gonna get his whole question list here because we try to be the most interactive and responsive candidate on social media there is, and apparently we've missed on this one, so we're gonna rectify tonight. Now, the first question he had for us was, how would you have voted in the impeachment trials? And as we know, the impeachment trials were specifically over the phone call. I'm just scooting away from you a little bit here.
Please and thank you.
We're on a love seat, so it's we're getting a little snuggly here. The impeachment trials was specifically about the Ukrainian phone call, where it was alleged, and President Trump was impeached for apparently extorting the Prime Minister of
Yeah, it was
Ukraine.
Prime Minister,
Prime
yeah.
Minister. I didn't know what their name was. The president of the Ukraine.
No, I'm sorry. You're right. It was president. Yeah.
Yeah. Over information, political dirt on the Bidens, which is obviously
Right. But
interference in
specifically
an
to
election.
publicly announce the investigation into it, not to do a normal investigation.
Right. Just it was obviously a political operation. He got caught. He was impeached by the House. I would have voted with the House on that. The Senate obviously fell a vote or two short.
To put it mildly.
Moving on. Would you vote for federal legalization of marijuana and psilocybin? Now, you asked that as one question, but there are two different elements there. Obviously, I have long been, ever since I entered politics back in January of 2018, a proponent of full legalization of cannabis on the federal level, descheduling of it as a Schedule I narcotic, and getting it out there for medications and obviously recreational use to benefit tax bases in every state in the union, and also to free up the regulations we have on the textile portion on the hemp.
Industry too.
Yeah, that industry does overlap, even though they are now making more and more exemptions for hemp, because obviously it has no psychoactive properties and it's a completely different plant. It's a cousin of, but it's gotten swept up in that stupid net. So I'm already in favor of that. Now, the psilocybin was a new one, and Dave and I were discussing it a bit. We would like to see it in the hands of medical professionals. I know that it does have uses in the research that I've heard, especially treating some rare mental afflictions, that it affects the serotonin levels and can indeed have positive results. So yes, I would absolutely love to see it in the hands of medical researchers and doctors so that people can get prescribed psilocybin.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I think we overregulate drugs as it is. We already know prohibition doesn't work. We're not coming out for the advocation of
There's two
legalization.
amendments about that.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, exactly. We're not coming out for the legalization of heroin just yet. But I do think prohibition is not the way to do it. That treatment is more effective, and the science says so. So that's my point of view on it. I don't think we should criminalize people's behavior unless it harms others. And once we can be sure that it doesn't harm others, that's the whole.
Well, we're actually
marijuana's killed nobody. Legalize it. Okay, moving on. Go ahead. What?
I was going to say we're actually relatively sure psilocybin specifically is fine because it's actually been proven, like in a research environment, to really help with both depression and also PTSD.
Absolutely, and I think it should be used more and more and more, especially since it is an organic medication, which
sure, doctor supervision, but absolutely,
right. You don't want people tripping balls while driving, but that's the same with any drug.
No, that would not be good.
Operating heavy machinery, there are restrictions, but should it be more accessible than it is now? Yeah, I think the Calvinist phase of the United States history should be done.
Should be.
Do you believe our police are too militarized? That's a loaded question these days, but we have a pretty good answer for you. Yes, I do think that in the post 911, 9/11, sorry, 911 being the number you call for emergency, unless you live in Clay Higgins State, where he told you don't call 911 if you want to call.
Oh God!
When he tweeted about that a week or two ago, he said, "If you don't like the police, don't call 911." In the post 9/11 Homeland Security and USA Patriot Act, there was a heavy backlash against the terrorism, of course, and the perception of terrorism. And that's at that time, a lot of our small police forces around the country, small departments, began receiving, as part of their Homeland Security grants, military equipment, as we know. Now, every city in the country does and should have a SWAT response unit, a heavily armed unit for specific things. But I think we are too militarized because I think what is effective in most communities, I mean, we're here in Broussard. I'm waving around. Oh, you got to pardon me.
Bless you.
Oh, can I have a napkin or something? I'm sorry about that, y'all. I'm gonna muddle through. I'll get there, but you're seeing the human side of Ron
for a while.
You're seeing the human side of Ron. This is what it's like. Brain still works, but doesn't want to. Believe me, I'd rather be sleeping right now. Thank you very much. Community policing is effective. Where actual police officers, what I was waving before is this Broussard, small town, 15,000 people total, something like that.
Not quite that much. It's like 13, 14, somewhere on there.
Spread over a few miles, some rural, some we're kind of in the country. It's a little town, but I mean, it's not an atypical town in the United States. And, we don't need to see our police officers here, and we don't, like rolling down the main street in a half track. It's just not that kind of town. What is effective on a local level has always been police officers who get out, who meet their constituents, the people they're protecting, getting on a first name basis with your local law enforcement, and it removes that divide and that fear that each side has of the other. And that's our push, is towards community policing. Do you understand? Okay, this one's a little challenging here. Do you understand that our planet is suffering from the effects of climate change? Yes, I do. Do you? The rise in greenhouse gases, as has been tracked, is contributing to an overall rise, in temperatures across the globe. Now, in some cases, this is actually a good thing, believe it or not. I'll include my own opposition arguments. Longer growing seasons in some regions would create more food. However, when you change 1 or 2 degrees Celsius around the country, you talk about melting ice caps, which then changes weather. Believe it or not, this whole globe we affect each other. So less ice up north, less cold winds coming down, and it leads to extreme weathers. And we've seen a rise in extreme storms these days. So specifically, when we talk about climate change, we talk about how it affects us here in Louisiana. That's the only part we can worry about. Now, I mean, do we worry on a global scale? Yes. But on a practical level, we're talking about all the industrialists in our area who go out into the basins and the bayous, and they dredge out channels to bring in equipment and drill for oil, and then they're contracted to fill it in behind them and repair the damage, and they don't. So as Dave and I agreed before, one of the ways to combat that is to hold them responsible, to actually enforce the rules we already have for remediation. A penalty so severe that if they, excuse me again,
it works as a preventative, basically. Like it gives the law enough teeth to make it to where people don't want to say, well, financially it makes more sense to just pay the fine and get a slap on the wrist than we actually are benefiting it from a cost-based analysis. That's ridiculous. Why have a fine?
Right. We want a penalty where one oil company screws up once. We fine them millions of dollars, and they find that it's a lot easier just to fulfill the contract that they've already signed to remediate area damage behind them. We have abandoned wells all over. Yes, this is live, Leo Garcia. And the other aspect, of course, is what can we do as a community? Well, alternative energy, as you already know. But if you don't now, you do. All right. We're pushing big for alternative energy, solar energy, residential solar specifically, but solar power plants as well, like the one we just energy just opened in Plaquemine. Is an $8 billion market in Louisiana. And think of how many new high-tech good jobs that could be, how much new tax base that could be. And it has the side effect of not being a fossil fuel, and it's renewable, so it's good for the future. So that's definitely how we address climate change, except that it's real, and think of what we can do step by step to help the people of Louisiana and to fix the problem. You can do both at the same time, I believe. Now, Lou just asked, are you going to address the 210 bridge and Clay Higgins continuously using it as a campaign promise, then dropping it entirely once he's elected? Yes, I am. Coming out next week, as y'all may or may not know, next week is qualifying here in Louisiana, where we officially get on the Secretary of State's ballot.
Is it the GROW?
It is the GROW
Oh
Act.
my God, it's the GROW. All right, cool.
It will finally be the GROW Act, the Gulf Region Omnibus Works Act. That is our primary piece of legislation that we're going to push. We're writing it right now. It's going to be a novel piece of legislation that it encourages an infrastructure investment in a holistic approach all across the Gulf region of the United States, of which case, of course, Louisiana is a major part of. So yes, we're going to address that, Lou, but stay tuned until next week. I'm going to get through Luke's questions here. Excuse me. Let's see. Would you vote yes on a federal bill to end privatized prisons? Hell, yes, I would. I would even sponsor that bill. I think private prisons and the subversion of the 13th Amendment, keeping slavery alive in the United States, is an abomination. And I think that private prisons are an impediment to criminal justice reform and treating diseases like diseases, and stop trying to funnel people to a school to prison pipeline so you can control the population. It's disproportionately unfair to minorities, and it keeps slavery legal in this country. If you don't know it, if you're incarcerated, you can legally be considered a slave. And I do not think constitutionally, and I do not think that one, our country should have any form of slavery still existing in it. And two, I don't think we should profit off of human misery. Excuse me. I think prisons should be in public hands, because then we're not being charged, but there's no incentivization to lock up more people like there are for private prisons. They get more money, the more people get locked up. That's not good for the general populace. Since I advocate for the people, I do not advocate for private prisons. And also, they donate to political campaigns. Lo and behold, what a surprise, follow the friggin' money.
Right. It also leads to potential corruption too.
It's inherently corrupt. Exactly.
Right. Potential, right.
What do you think the federal minimum wage should be raised to? I think it should be at least $7.35 an hour at minimum.
But it's already 7:45.
I know that was a joke. I was seeing if anybody could catch we had talked about this
too.
because the minimum wage. I can be very dry. Because the minimum wage has not been touched since 2009. Obviously, we need an immediate leap because it has fallen way behind the GDP inflation curve.
Thanks, Joe.
The dude on the right looks like Wayne Static had a nervous breakdown. Is that me?
I'm not sure. I guess I'm. Yeah, probably on the right in their view.
Okay.
Oh well. I did not have a nervous breakdown though.
Neither one of us had a nervous breakdown. It must be difficult being concerned about climate change in Louisiana. Do you represent a minority viewpoint? I don't think you obviously should. It's such an important issue. Yeah, we'll get back to you on that. So the federal minimum wage. Obviously, I think there should be an immediate jump to $10 an hour. There's a short version of the question. And then I think that it should be written as a bill where each year's increases are tied into the gap between inflation and the GDP, and it has to go by state. The reason being, the minimum cost of living, they've done analysis of this, in Louisiana is roughly $12 an hour. So if we got to $12 an hour as a minimum wage, that means everybody in the state could essentially support themselves at a poverty level, according to studies. Now, $12 an hour here is not the same as $12 an hour in Seattle or Manhattan or, pick a city, Chicago. So their minimum wage may be higher, and that should be relegated. I know a lot of people are pushing 15 nationally. That's more than doubling the current wage, and it's, I am a Democrat, but I do think we have to caution against when we bring the dialogue to that much of an increase, we lose the conversation because the opposition is not even listening. You're not even coming up
All
with a
things in
number.
moderation.
Should everybody make at least 15 hours? Sure, of course. But we're at 725. Let's move up, and then let's start putting it to where the living wage is the goal. I think if you work a full-time job, you should be able to at least feed and house yourself. And that's the goal on that. And yes, it has to be addressed immediately. That's day one of the new Congress, assuming this current Congress and Senate continue at their obstructionist pace. Have you watched the documentary 13th? No, I've discussed it with people who have. My wife and I obviously were on the road a lot, and we haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. I do know what it's about. I did address it earlier on criminal justice reform. What areas of politics are you most passionate about? Human rights, infrastructure, healthcare, how the climate change is affecting our own district here in Louisiana, that we're losing land every day. And as General Honore himself says, anybody down here south of I-10 better start looking up at Shreveport, because in a few years the Gulf is going to encroach and there will be no more third district or the bottom parts of the first district.
Yeah,
and
lower half at least. Yeah.
So we really have to address this, and it's not theoretical here. So I am passionate about that. Infrastructure is a big one for me, because it relates to like the minimum amount that we treat people like human beings. I know a lot of people who are from Louisiana, if you're watching, will know this. But Louisiana is separated into third world, second world, and first world. There are actually third world remnants where there is no public utility out there. You barely have electricity. Some people literally live in swamps and with no clean water. The entire state should have access to the minimums these days in 2020, I would think. Clean water, clean air, which affects us all, of course. Public Wi-Fi is a big one we're pushing for in this wired up 21st century. Everybody needs access to the internet for the most basic things, not just entertainment. Although everybody who gets it seems to binge watch Netflix, but that's good. But I think everybody should have access to that. Otherwise, how are we part of the United States when, myself, where I live is a small town, DeQuincy. Some of you heard of it. We just got DSL last December. We're not exactly cutting edge. And then over here in Lafayette, you have LUS Fiber, which is one of the best infrastructure utilities in the country.
In the world, actually.
In the world. And it was built with public money. That's ours. We did that. So we can do that all over the entire district. Everybody's wired in on fiber optics. State of the art. It's here. It's possible. Politicians don't do things unless they get kickbacks, I guess. That's why our approach is different. We just want what's best for the people. And infrastructure is a big one. Decent roads. You can get to and from work. Everybody wants you to go to work. Great. Can I get there? That'd be nice. Can I not die of cancer from breathing the air when I get there? That'd be nice. Will you be lobbied for money? Of course, any elected official is going to be lobbied. They're going to get a very simple answer, which is no. I obviously, as an elected official, I will be lobbied by causes, Sierra Club, Audubon Society. Pick a good one. That's not gonna.
That's actually pretty.
Yeah, that's not gonna annoy people. But there are obviously groups, human rights groups, LGBT groups are gonna lobby us, and that's fine. What we're against, and when we talk about dark money, is corporate lobbying. We don't take corporate money now with donations during the campaign, and we won't once I'm elected. Lobbying should be done like any cause, a group of people looking for redress from their congressman, and that's how politics are done. The exchange of cash is sleazy, and we're not going to do it.
It's also strictly legal too.
Yeah, well, that doesn't seem to stop anybody else.
The
But
only reason why it's still a thing is the technicality is going to a middleman who is known as a lobbyist. It's a shell company version of like the political side.
yeah, would you have voted for or against net neutrality? I'm for net neutrality. The idea of throttling is anathema and it's against free speech. And I don't think, well, I think Congress should override the FCC on that. If I'm not mistaken, the net neutrality just went to the board of the FCC and they basically just said, you know,
It's actually already happened, but yes.
that's what I meant. They just kind of overrode the will.
Shut down, and like all the rules and regulations that the FCC had done were completely thrown out the window. So there is no regulation anymore. Basically.
Right. So
Clay, by the way, voted to do that.
Of course he did.
Of course he did.
So we're on the other side of Clay. And as always, we just want people to have access to things as much as a corporation. We want the corporations to have no more rights than we do, and you know that's where we keep running into roadblocks. We're not against people; we're for people. Corporations are not people. I don't care what Citizens United said.
Amen.
Amen. Do you believe we need ICE reform? Sure. Yes, we do. Obviously, our immigration policy sucks. The execution of it sucks. And rather than fix it, they've doubled down on doing things incorrectly. One way you could fix a lot of the immigration policy is enforcing the rules you have, add more immigration lawyers to expedite the process, because we are a country built on immigration.
And judges too, for that matter.
And judges.
Specifically lawyers.
Right. Lawyers and judges on those border towns to process these cases. We're a country built on immigration. We want everybody who wants to come here for a better life to have the opportunity to do so. All we need to do is vet them to make sure we're not bringing in drug smuggling and gang activities and all the security issues the Republicans talk about, because they want to scare you away from the fact that most people are obviously just coming here for a better life. All of us have known a first or second generation immigrant. I mean, I've known many, and you know, I've never yet met a drug kingpin, but I've met a lot of people who came here to work construction or to work agriculture, a lot of the fields that yeah, I know. I have a runny nose. It's not sneezing. No, I don't have COVID. I was just tested 2 weeks ago, though. Of course, I could have gotten it since then. Well, if I have it, then everybody here has it. So let's not joke about that.
You just have a cold.
Hmm?
You just have a cold.
I have a something reaction to MSG is what I actually think it is. I am allergic to MSG, so sorry about that.
You totally lost train of thought.
I totally lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I told you I'm not feeling well. I'm just trying to. I want Luke to be happy. I want this answered honestly and straightforward. It's how we've done everything the whole time. What is white privilege? This is a good question. It's kind of challenging. I gave the literal answer before because I'm a very literal person. White privilege is the ability to go through life without having prejudice acted against you because of the color of your skin. Now that's a simple answer, and it doesn't explain everything, because what I think we're seeing examples of more and more, and this goes back to 1972. To me, that's when a lot of numbers started splitting. The wage gap really started increasing. I was trying to think of a simple way to say it. When we really started losing the middle class up through the Reagan years and the tax cuts for the rich, and it went from the point where your boss made on average 3.5 times what you did till now it's 937 times the boss makes what the person did. So I think we're seeing a wealth gap that accompanies that, you know, of course, people who are from money and have grown up with money network with other people with money, and that I think they literally do live in a different world. And of course, as I say, the American dream, you can break into that. You can do it if you work hard enough, and you can. But being a poor person, getting to there is an extreme challenge. And then you add in the very real effects of prejudice being acted out against you.
Systemic racism, sure.
Systemic racism, which whether or not you agree with it, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but it is real. And all that a congressman can do, other than advocate, of course, for equality, is make sure there's no legislation that distinguishes between colors of skin or gender or religious beliefs, that the government is equal for all, and that I assure you I will do. I don't believe in racism. I'm not going to get into the statute subject because each municipality has its own point of view, and it's become propaganda. Because at this point, what we really need to worry about is that we have a pandemic that's still sweeping our country, that is setting record numbers in Texas, Florida, Arizona, and here in our own Louisiana every day. And some people still don't think that wearing a mask helps. So that's the stuff we try to stay focused on. How we can actually change tax laws if we get into office, how to help everybody, and what does that help entail? More education, more healthcare, more infrastructure. That's the focus of our campaign.
How's the phrase go? A rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah, a rising tide lifts all ships. And I think that everybody should have a shot at the American dream. From the poorest Cajun out here in the Pocket Bayou up to the rich neighborhoods in Baton Rouge, where all the oil money goes. I think everybody should have the same rights and the same access to success, the ability to succeed. Thank you very much. I'm sorry this is an abbreviated version of Swampside Chats, but I did try to get the questions going. We're happy to be back. We had a 2-week gap there because we had a couple other town halls. And I will add that for you, those of you who follow me on Twitter, well, first of all, if you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. It's at Rob Anderson 2018. And oh, Maddie. Hi, Matt. That's my daughter.
Nice.
That's my daughter. Hi, daughter. The at Robinson 2018. Tomorrow night we have a big No Dems Left Behind coalition town hall hosted by Chelsea Handler tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Time. I'm feeling better and a little less snuffly. If not, I'll eat a lot of chocolate covered coffee beans and I'll be bouncy and energetic anyway. There's going to be 11 candidates tomorrow night, so I'm only going to get about a 1 or 2 minute segment. So this is us time. What happened with verified accounts today on Twitter? They're searching it out. Several of the big accounts on Twitter got hacked. If y'all didn't catch this, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, there were many of them. Those are the ones that big accounts all posted this. I'm so excited to share because of COVID. Send me $1,000 in Bitcoin and I'll send you back too. Wow. It's an obvious scam, but they raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. People bought Bit because of the accounts. These were credible accounts, but because that obviously came from very high up within Twitter itself. So all Democrats, I don't know. I think Trump is blocked. Anyway, verified accounts right now are locked out. I cannot tweet. That's why we didn't do this on Twitter live, because I can't tweet right now, which was why it was a pain in the ass getting this webcam set up because we had no fallback.
I was wondering why.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd have started Twitter live while we were messing it. But yeah, right now, verified, I can like and I can retweet and I can DM. But yeah, Twitter got hacked and apparently it was bad. So I don't know. That's a Twitter thing. I can tell you my account was not hacked. Then as soon as everybody else, I saw what was happening, I logged out, changed my password, logged back in, but then found out I couldn't tweet. So my account is fine. It just, I'll be quiet until they unlock us. That's a Twitter thing. I think it's very concerning, and I think Twitter definitely needs to address it. You're talking about national, international politics. Please don't go crazy with the conspiracy theories about it's Russia hacking or whatever. It seemed to be a money scam. It was all about Bitcoin and all going to buy a certain account's Bitcoin. So I would assume it's just normal, boring theft. And the FBI will probably be very interested in it. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Glad I could be here at least with you for about 40 minutes. And come check us out tomorrow. No Dems Left Behind with Chelsea Handler.
Good night, guys.